Hello, everyone. My name is Tom Vitez. I'm the Senior Director of Technology Innovation here at Canary. Also with me here from Canary is Don McCullough, the DAIR Solution Architect. I want to welcome everyone and thank you all for attending today's BoosterPack launch party. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available online at a later date.
Bonjour et merci à tous d'assister à la fin de lancement des propulseurs de la DAIR. Pour votre information, ce webinaire est présentement enregistré et sera disponible en ligne à une date ultérieure.
Canary helps private sector entrepreneurs get their products and services to market faster by providing free access to cloud resources and tutorials on leading-edge cloud technologies. The program known as DAIR, which stands for Digital Accelerator for Innovation and Research, has been in existence for over 7 years. Today, I'm excited to share with you some recent additions to the DAIR program.
Canary aide les entrepreneurs du secteur privé à commercialiser plus rapidement leurs produits et services en offrant un accès gratuit aux ressources infonuagiques et à des didacticiels sur les technologies informatiques infonuagiques de pointe. Ce programme est connu sous le nom de l'ATIR, l'accélérateur technologique pour l'innovation et la recherche. Et ce programme existe depuis 7 ans maintenant. Aujourd'hui, je suis ravi de partager avec vous quelques ajouts récents au programme de l'ATIR.
So for today's agenda, we're going to be showcasing 4 of the DAIR BoosterPacks and also some details about some enhancements to the cloud program. Each of the BoosterPack builders that contributed to our catalog will be making individual presentations. Their presentations will be timed to 10 minutes, and we'll have a short Q&A after each of their presentations so that you can ask questions specific to their BoosterPack. For all other general questions, there is a Q&A facility in the webinar, so we ask that you post your questions, which will be answered at the end of the webinar in the Q&A dialogue, or wait until the end of the seminar or webinar and we'll open up the mic to the floor so that you can ask questions about the program.
Donc, si vous avez des questions tout au long de la présentation, écrivez-les, s'il vous plaît, dans la fenêtre des questions et des réponses, des Q&A. Nous accumulerons les questions et à la fin du webinaire, nous les répondrons à chaque question, une par une.
So once again, welcome to the launch party. I'm happy to also mention that we have 5 Amazon gift cards that will be won by a random draw at the end of the presentation. So just in time for your holiday shopping. You'll need to stick around at the end of the webinar to claim your prize. If your name is called, we'll ask you to verify your email address in the webinar chat window so that we can get that prize to you.
Pour la fête de lancement des propulseurs, il y a 5 cartes cadeaux d'Amazon à gagner. Donc, c'est juste à temps pour la période des fêtes. Vous devrez rester jusqu'à la fin pour réclamer votre prix. Si votre nom est appelé, nous vous demanderons de vérifier votre adresse courriel dans la fenêtre de discussion du webinaire.
So in order to address SME and entrepreneurs' current and future needs, we've been in consultation with many entrepreneurs across Canada, and we've asked them, you know, what can we do to help you out? And most often the response is, well, I could use bags of money, more time for R&D, any kind of free resources you can throw at me, including software developers. So with that in mind, of course, there's limitations to what Canary can do in that set of asks, but what we have now is providing you access to highly skilled staff or consultants to help you understand some leading edge technologies in the cloud space. So that's coming in the form of DAIR BoosterPacks, which we are showcasing today on this webinar with the first 4 in our catalog. Oh, one moment, please, because the slide presentation doesn't seem to be advancing. Sorry about that. We had somebody inform us that the slides were not advancing, so we've corrected the problem. So let me carry on where I left off. So in terms of how we're addressing the future needs of entrepreneurs and SMEs in Canada, we have now the solutions known as BoosterPacks. And of course, we continue to offer free access to the latest cloud resources. And we'll talk about some new enhancements to what is available to you in terms of cloud. So first, the BoosterPacks. These BoosterPacks are tutorials that include sample code to illustrate some new cloud technologies such as machine learning and others. Will allow you to quickly evaluate and learn how to adopt them, and in the hopes that you can build a proof of concept or test this technology as a part of your planned design, architecture, or solution for the cloud, because we provide sample code as well as supporting documentation. These BoosterPacks are built by Canadian SMEs with proven expertise in this target technology. Of course, we'll continue to offer the free cloud resources so that you can deploy these BoosterPacks or the sample applications and see how they operate and do your own experimentation if you want to augment the code and redeploy it to the cloud. All of the cloud now, which is moving to a hybrid cloud, will be made available through a single pane of glass called our cloud platform. Also, we refer to it as a cloud broker tool. So that's a single web application or interface that will allow you to deploy apps and containers to the cloud of your choice. And all of this, of course, is available to you without any licensing or contracts. So if we unpack what's inside of the BoosterPacks, we have what we call a flight plan. This is the high-level documentation that describes the architecture implementation, some of the key learnings from the subject matter expert when they were doing their research and development on this technology, as well as some already vetted key resources that are available on the web today that they found most useful. So if you want to do a deeper dive or exploration, there's a list of resources that have been recommended for you. The next thing is the launch codes, and that's the actual source code for the sample application that is bundled with the BoosterPack. The source code is provided to everyone free of license or kind of open source, if you will. So you're able to take that source code and augment it or change it up or build it into your application without any royalties or licensing involved. And then, as mentioned, we have the cloud platform for you to develop and test your products and services and hopefully showcase them to potential customers and get you to market faster. So how does this program, how does this affect the DAIR program? If we look at a high-level block diagram, we have Canary in the middle, and we're curating the BoosterPack catalog, of which there's 4 right now, but the intention is to grow that catalog and make them available to all. Participant DAIR users are what we call explorers on the right-hand side, and they'll be the ones using or consuming the booster packs, and deploying them in our public cloud through the Cloud Broker tool. If you look at the bottom, this hybrid cloud is now made up of OpenStack private cloud, where we're hosting brand new NVIDIA P100 GPUs, as well as a slice of Amazon's AWS cloud and Microsoft Azure cloud. One other thing that I'll mention is we're excited to introduce private Slack channel for all DAIR participants to enhance your support experience and improve and enable interactions among Canadian entrepreneurs. So our intention here is to foster and grow the DAIR community of users across the country. So we've already contracted 4 SMEs to build out the first 4 booster packs for DAIR. And if feedback from the DAIR user community remains positive and strong in support of these booster packs, we'll continue to invest and grow the catalog based on our knowledge of the cloud industry, as well as listening to recommendations from you, the users. So in the current catalog, we have machine learning time series prediction from a company, Blue Wave AI, an Internet of Things booster pack from a Really Active, cloud data ETL tool from Aption, and a machine learning recommender system from an independent consultant, Carla Margalef-Ventable, sorry. So now on to the booster packs, and I'm going to turn over sharing the screen and allow me to introduce Really Active. So Jeff, if you want to connect and share your screen while I introduce you. So Jeff Jeff Dungeon is the co-founder and CEO of Really Active, based out of Montreal, which is in its 9th year and continues to see traction and growth every passing year. Not only is Jeff a past participant to the DAIR program, who benefited from free access to cloud resources in the early days of his company's evolution, he is also a strong advocate for open source software. Jeff has contributed to DAIR with the IoT Booster Pack and has many more contributions in his Really Active GitHub public open source repo. So over to you, Jeff.
Thanks, Tom. Can you confirm that you can hear me and see the screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So I'm happy to introduce our Internet of Things booster pack. And what I like to start with, though, is when talking about the Internet of Things, is just a very quick definition to set things up right. And the definition we subscribe to is the idea of computers being able to understand the physical world without humans having to enter any data. That's what we consider the Internet of Things. And you'll see this booster pack relates to physical spaces, being able to recognize their occupants, both people and assets, and make sense of what's going on and the dynamics of how people and assets are interacting within physical spaces. And the way that we do that is we listen for all the ambient wireless packets that you might find. So for instance, as humans carrying around smartphones and wearables, we give off a lot of Bluetooth packet traffic, which can be used for different things. And if you're familiar with the term RFID, there's also billions of RFID devices shipping annually that are throughout physical spaces. So a solution is based on this premise. What you can do with that, there's in fact multiple use cases. The first one we'll look at is anonymous occupancy. So what can you do if you listen to all the packet traffic and try and figure out who's using or what is using different spaces? You can do explicit asset tracking. So if you put a Bluetooth badge onto an asset, you can track it around through physical spaces or a supply chain, for instance. You can do personnel tracking if people wear badges themselves. And then the last one is doing sensor data collection. So you can actually collect, for instance, temperature and humidity from very inexpensive sensors that you can just throw into a space and have captured. This is high level what our solution looks like on DAIR. So if you want to use this solution, On the left, you'll see there's BLE transmitters, Bluetooth Low Energy transmitters. If you have a smartphone, a wearable, basically even your home, anywhere, there's so many things talking Bluetooth, so this is kind of a given. And then next, you do need some kind of hardware to feed the system. And I'm happy to say that we do have several of these devices in the middle that are called all-in-ones available for loan. Tom has those, so you can talk to him about that if you'd like to use it. But you can also use like a Raspberry Pi and other things, and we'll show you how to emulate the data. And then what runs on DAIR is what we call our HLC server, and that's some open source software. And we're also using the Elastic Stack. So Elasticsearch and Cabana, the open source versions running on DAIR. And then I'll show you two things. One is a real-time view. So I'll show you what you can do with the real-time data. And I'll show you now a few examples of what you can do with historic data that you've collected over time on anonymous occupancy. So here's an example of a Cabana dashboard that was prepared by my colleague. And this is showing conference room occupancy by hour over the course of a week on different floors of an office building here in Montreal. So you can get some very interesting data like this out of physical spaces just by listening. For the fact that people have smartphones when they walk into a conference room, and you don't require any change management. And another example, this one's done in an outdoor context of foot traffic. And you can see over the course of a week how much foot traffic some outdoor exhibits receive. And if you look at the top curve, you can see what kind of looks like almost like a crown on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And that's the breakfast, lunch, and dinner transit times that you can easily pick out of the data. So that's my brief intro. Now let's hop in to see this in action on DAIR, where I will figure out how to exit my presentation while I'm in the window now, which is giving me the challenge. There we go. All right, so this is now the instance that we have running on DAIR that I fired up yesterday. And if you don't have access to any of the hardware, you can just click on this little emulate button and emulate a showcase kit, which I've already done. And that's why we're seeing a little bit of traffic here in these little gauges. So if I run a web app now, for instance, I've run this hello tracking, it's going to give me a list of all the devices that are currently seen by the system. Now this is simulated data, and you can see these are all the different things that we're tracking and where they're located. What's more interesting then is to get an idea of a specific device. So if I were to click on the first one, I'll go here to a web app that we created. And again, these web apps are just sitting on top of the APIs that are provided by the BoosterPack. Just a cute way to learn how to use this technology. Here, what you're seeing is Owlist, which is one of our dressed up owls. And that represents one of the badges. And then on the right side, you'll see the image changing of different locations. This is showing an image of where Owlist is currently located. So this is a cute way of showing how tracking works and to be able to explain it in a non-technical way. And if you scroll down, then you can see what's really going on behind the scenes of how we're detecting Owlist's little beacon badge and the signal strength that it's detected on by different receivers and things. So that's an example of tracking. As I mentioned, there's also Elasticsearch and Cabana behind this. This is a popular database stack. And you can do some interesting queries. So for instance, I did a query asking about how many different packets that I received by date. I've been running this since yesterday. So you can see the number of docs that I had in the first 12-hour period and the second 12-hour period. This is kind of the boring way of getting access to the database, but it's just to show that you can get to this level with APIs in the data. If we look at something a little bit more fun, then we'll move over to Hello Sensors. So this is a web app that's showing some of the sensor data that you can capture using the solution. So for instance, the first one that you see here is a small Bluetooth beacon. It's very expensive. It has an accelerometer in it. So if you move this around, the acceleration will change. This is actually on my keychain. So you can actually see the orientation of my keychain, for instance. And then the second one that we look at here, temperature and humidity, another inexpensive sensor that you can just stick on an HVAC duct or something. And you have other sensors for visible light, et cetera, et cetera. And now for generally a pretty fun one, we're going to look at a place called Notman House. I'm just going to let it load up here. Notman House is located in Montreal, and we've been running that actually on the DAIR platform for a long time. And it's being a little slow to load up. Let's do a refresh here. And what we can see with Notman House is an app called Hello Sniffypedia. So with Bluetooth packets, you can sometimes determine what the device manufacturer. So you can get an idea that in this house, there are now about 71, 73 different Apple devices. You've got Microsoft devices, people using Tiles and Fitbits and things. So these are some of the interesting things you can detect about a space. And then to wrap it up, just to show you something if you want to follow up afterwards, we have a showcase of Notman House. And you can go look at some dashboards on Cabana. That would be exactly what you'd have with the BoosterPack. So here's an example here of occupancy over Canada Day, the week, and heat maps by zone. So I think I've used up my time, so I'm going to hand it back to you, Tom, to handle questions and things.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Jeff. That's a pretty exciting technology that you've furnished us with. So really appreciative of your contribution to the BoosterPacks. We do have a couple of questions. First question is, do you guys have a list of items that you have for loan and is your office in Toronto? So right now, the only devices that are offered that are required actually are for this IoT booster pack, and Jeff has graciously given us 4 of his All-in-One devices that will scan a physical space for Bluetooth devices and RFID. So we do have 4 available. If you want to borrow one of those, you can contact us at dair.admin@canary.ca and make that request. Of course, it's only going to be a benefit if you apply to the DAIR program so that you can start deploying and using the instructions to deploy this in the DAIR Cloud. But yeah, that's available. The other question was, how low power is the transmitter? I'll let Jeff answer that.
Oh, okay, sure, Tom. I thought you'd have a stab at that one. In terms of low power, if we talk about radio, it's following the limits of what you can do in 2.4 gigahertz. It's quite quick power. In terms of range, what you'll find is you can have about 10-meter range quite easily. And we have some people using these in Ottawa for equipment tracking, and they'll often get 100-meter range when these devices are outdoors. So that's essentially it. And in terms of low power, it means a beacon, so something for tracking a person or an asset, you can expect to last easily a year, and there's ways to make it last even longer if required. Hope that answers that question.
Great, thanks, Jeff. So follow-up question is this all free, and are the web tutorials on how to create these, or where are there web tutorials? Yeah, so absolutely. Everything that we talk about in the webinar today is 100% free. So if you wanted to borrow one of the All-in-Ones because you're specifically interested in the really active IoT booster pack, you can get that for free. If after your loan period expires, you want to purchase one, they're not that expensive. I think they're around $100 or thereabouts. Jeff can correct me, and they're available through the Really Active website if you wanted to continue to use their technology for your development and experimentation.
Yeah, exactly. And you can use third-party hardware as well if you need to. We can follow up on that after.
Yeah, so there's also all kinds of links and information about where to get access to these devices, where to get additional tutorial information. If you go to the canary.ca/cloud landing page for the DAIR program, you'll see a menu item for booster packs. That's where the catalog is. That's available publicly now. Anybody can read through the documentation. If you're interested in following through and experimenting in the DAIR Cloud, that's when you need to apply to DAIR for that. Okay, so I think, well, yeah, there's another question about distance max between transmit and receive indoor and outdoor. Jeff, do you want to try that?
Sure. So if you're using Bluetooth technology, the indoor range you can generally estimate about 10 meters, and usually it's more than that. Again, the gateways for detecting these are fairly inexpensive, and it's easy to cover a large space with them. For outdoor, if you have good line of sight, you may get 100 meters or more. Again, it just depends on the situation. And there's other technologies you can use other than Bluetooth. Bluetooth is great for its low cost and relative availability. But if you have more questions, don't hesitate to reach out after. I'll be happy to follow up. Okay,
great. Thanks, Jeff. I think we're going to move on now. And I'm going to turn over control of the screen to our friends at Option while I introduce them. So actually, I'm not sure if Nabil Bader or Eric Putritz will be presenting today, but Eric is lead data scientist at Option, a local Ottawa company that has been around since 2005. Option is a leader in the field of secure cloud solutions and machine learning. Option also has many years of experience focused on designing and delivering custom data-intensive enterprise software. So with that, I will turn over the microphone to, I don't know, is it Eric or Nabil?
Eric and Nabil, the two of us are here. Yep.
Great. Thanks for joining, guys.
Well, thank you, Tom. So just give a quick overview of the solution we built for Canary, for the BoosterPack. So what our solution, we want to address a common scenario when importing new data sets into databases. We know we've been working with a lot of different customers. We know that when you need to build analytics, when you want to do data science, when you want to build reports or anything like that, you frequently need to bring some new data into your existing database. And if you look today, there are a lot of tools that are available, but like something like taking CSV files into a database or into a new data set, the current tools, they frequently struggle even just to get a simple CSV file in because the types are not extracted properly, and they don't give you any visibility on the data that you want to look at. So what we are proposing is a single tool is to load the file. It will give you some understanding of the data that inside the columns, will classify the data and also flag some PII elements in there. And finally, load all this data into SQL Server. And just couple cool features about the tool we developed. So the first thing is we have an optimized CSV loader, so we can really handle some larger data sets from CSV into SQL Server very quickly and efficiently. It's a customizable CSV analysis pipeline as well. So there's like a whole framework where you can just, we have built some recognizers. We'll show what that looks like after, but it's a customizable pipeline that you can add your own in there. And everything is based on the most recent ASP.NET Core framework. We're using Docker and we're using Blazor. So this is really an application you can also can be really used as a starting point. If you need something running, ASP.NET Blazor running into any cloud service, you can take this as an example. And it's all open source, and it can also be embedded into existing application. If you need to handle flows with CSV files, that's something you can use. And I think next what we'll do is we'll show you how the user interface looks like. And if we have some time, we'll go a bit into the deployment, into Morpheus.
Sure.
So I think maybe we can show the sample data first.
Yeah.
So basically, this is the problem we're looking at is, let's say you have an existing database and that you're using for reporting, and you need to add an existing data set, something that looks like this. And what we want to do here is help you understand what's in this data. Maybe it's a third-party data and you don't know everything, you don't know all the columns. Here it's relatively simple, but if you look at like more than 30, 40 columns, it starts to really become hard to understand. And not just that, but you might not be aware that there's sensitive data into these files. So if that's the case, you will need to properly configure your database, handle encryption, and all these other attributes. So that's the problem we want to address.
Right. So this is the application, and it's split up into 4 sections. The first section is where you specify your file, your target database, where you want to transform the data to. The second section is a very simple analysis of the data. And then the third step would be to classify that data into a more detailed analysis of what that data represents. Is it sensitive, etc. And then finally, the fourth step would be to generate a schema of the CSV to run onto your local database, or alternatively upload it straight from this web app. In this demonstration, we won't be doing the upload, but we will end up with a schema that we would be able to run on a local database, SQL Server database. So from the file that we showed, it was comma separated. It had headers, so we specify that, and then we just upload the file. And then once that's done, if we did want to upload it to SQL, we would be able to put our connection string here and then test it, but we're not going to do that. And then we can just start the first basic analysis of the file. So we press start.
So unlike most, a lot of different tools that exist already, we are really looking at analyzing all the data. There's like a parallelism built in the application to process the data efficiently. So everything is read, every single column, every single data type.
Yeah. And in the UI, we talk about the total records we saw, the file size, total columns. And then a simple analysis of each column is displayed, gives some sample data, some statistics about the data, some completion statistics. But again, this isn't as detailed as we'd like it. So the next step would be to classify what we found and give the data more meaning. So then we can classify fields. This one takes a few more seconds than the other one. Once the progress bar is based on the analysis of the data, and then there's a few seconds later where it does a primary key analysis that takes a few more seconds.
Yeah, the other part is we want to optimize the schema that's going to be in SQL Server, so it's not we want to flag the primary keys and automate all of that for you.
Yeah. So now that's done, we have a little more information about the file. So the app was determining that, hey, this field is a title. This field is identified as a first name with some relative confidence, so we can flag it as sensitive. So you'll see a shield here. We display the completion of the data, additional statistics of the data, and some distributions and probabilities of our identification of the fields. If you're satisfied with what you see, then you can move on to creating your schema. But if you're not, let's say you say, hey, this is a first name, but I want my database to have a greater size. We could give the first name 40 or what have you. And then once that's done, the final step would be to view the schema. So you would run that, and now you have a schema that you can run on your server. And as I said earlier, if there was a database connection string that you wanted to upload to, and you would then be able to just press upload, and what that would do would automatically run this script on the database and then upload the data from the CSV straight onto the cloud database.
Yeah, so I think we still have a couple minutes, and we can probably go into the setup of the solution. So if that's something you're interested to deploy, this is Docker based. So what basically you will need is to create a Docker host, deploy a Docker image there, and I think that's about it. If you also in the documentation, we detail how you can create and configure a SQL Server instance where you can load the data. That part is optional. And that will give you deployment of the solution in more phase.
Yeah, that's pretty much our presentation. If there's any questions.
Okay, I think there are a couple of questions, but before we get into those, I just want to thank you guys. I don't think that I've seen a cleaner or easier application to help upload data sets into the cloud. So thanks a lot for providing that to us. Into the questions, we were asked if, was that from a prior question? Are the free BoosterPacks transferable to commercial for-profit products? So all of the sample code is provided through some sort of open source license. So as long as you, mention the source of the code and want to incorporate into your product, that's absolutely fine. So all of the licensing details are provided to you in the BoosterPack, and they slightly differ from one to another, but they are all open source based, so they are free for use, modification, and redistribution. So that's the answer to that question. Have you considered adding cPanel? It's one-click installs. That's brilliant hosted solution for your audience and much wider range of already made solutions. So with the broker tool, we have a number of options available to us. So this specific booster pack provided by Aption is a Docker container. So in our environment, it's very simple, straightforward, a couple of clicks to spin up a Docker host, and then you follow the instructions in the booster pack guide to deploy this Aption solution as a container on that host server, and you're up and running in a matter of minutes. So it is very simple and straightforward. The other three booster packs are similar in style, I guess I would say, to a cPanel in that they follow something that is called a blueprint for an application, and that makes it very simple to deploy and get your application up and running quickly in the new DAIR Cloud environment, in whichever cloud you prefer. So that's the answer to that one. What range of databases do you deal with? The usual suspects, I imagine, but what about graph databases? I'll flip that back to Eric or Nabil.
Yes, so this open source version only works with SQL Server, but we have a commercial offering called the Privacy Data Hunter, and it works with graph databases, works with many more connectors, and
Oracle, Postgres.
Yeah, Oracle, Postgres, and MongoDB, and other graph databases as well. So we're more than happy to take to have questions offline if someone wants to know more about our commercial offering.
Great, thanks. So one other question that I saw from earlier, is there a Glitter Slack hip chat with questions, suggestions, and chat? And I did mention earlier in the presentation that all of the DAIR applicants that are accepted into the program get added to a private Slack channel, and that's an area where you can ask questions directly to the booster pack builders like Nabil and Eric and Jeff and others. So if you're trialing their booster pack, you can chat with them directly if you're having questions. If you have questions or issues with the DAIR Cloud environment in general, we have Don McCullough and myself supporting that. And as well, you're free to interact and chat with the other entrepreneurs that are leveraging DAIR program to, talk about technology choices, architecture, you name it, maybe even partnering with them for a future endeavor engagement. So yeah, that's what we have, a Slack channel for all of the DAIR participants, but you have to apply and be accepted into the program. That Slack channel is private and is not open to the public. Okay, so I don't see any other questions at this time, so we'll keep the ball rolling here, and I will pass a screen over to my good friend Don, who will be presenting on behalf of Carla, who unfortunately was not able to be with us today. So just an introduction though. So Carla Margalef-Bentabol is a former employee at Amazon AWS, where she specialized in machine learning and was responsible for developing machine learning training materials inside of Amazon. She is currently an independent consultant and resides in Toronto. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, she was not able to be with us today. So Don McCullough, the DAIR Cloud architect, will present her machine learning booster pack on her behalf. If you have questions about the booster pack, we'll do our best to answer, but again, I'd encourage you to join DAIR and post your questions direct to Carla on our private Slack channel. So with that, I'll turn it over to Don.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. The Movie Recommender Booster Pack provides a deployable sample solution that allows users to observe and study the application of a collaborative filtering model to provide recommendations to users based on their past behavior. This solution includes a deep learning model developed in Python and TensorFlow, leveraging NVIDIA TensorRT library and TensorRT inference server. A neural network is trained by using movies watched and rated by users as positive examples, and the unwatched movies as negative examples. The model is trained using the Movie Lens dataset, which is a dataset with movie information and ratings from users that is publicly available for non-commercial purposes and commonly used in tutorials and research projects. More can be found on the boosterpacks.cloud.canary.ca site on this booster pack. The environment was to, oh, sorry, let me move over here. So let me just get the demo section. The environment was deployed following the booster pack example. We log into the instance with SSH, and then we've got a couple commands to run. First, we got to attach to the Docker container that was deployed as part of the booster pack deployment. And then, oh, it's already running, sorry. And then normally you'd run a Python command to get this running, but it's already running in the background. So the data set has already been crunched. At this point, the example shows 6,000 users and their data, and being able to see a user and see the movies they've watched. So let me show you an example of that. So I grabbed user 687. The movies they've watched and reviewed are at the top, and then the 10 recommendations for them of movies they might like to watch are provided below. The goal here is to show you how to build the recommender system, how to enable machine learning to crunch this data and crunch new data as it comes in. It is a fixed data set in this example, but that data set can be replaced, and that all kinds of discussions around those capabilities are in the booster pack for you to experiment with.
Okay, thanks, Don. I can imagine that there'd be many different verticals that would be of interest to you know, all kinds of entrepreneurs. And if you think about how prolific online shopping is today, and you think about, you know, making purchases on an online e-store, I'm used to seeing that, you know, you've made this purchase, but we'd also, others like you have made this and this additional purchase. So, you know, this is a great example of how to leverage machine learning in multiple vertical applications, I believe. So it's great that we have this as well added to the current catalog to kick things off. So now what I'd like to do is move on to our last presenter, Blue Wave AI, who's provided us with a time series prediction with a machine learning example. So while I get Hubert to connect and get ready to demonstrate what he's built for us, I'd like to introduce Hubert Sujan. Is the Director of Engineering at Blue Wave AI in Canada. Blue Wave AI is committed to accelerating the adoption and use of renewable energy sources like wind and solar across communities and corporations to realize the utility of the future. Blue Wave AI's grid energy optimization platform uses AI and big data analytics in order to balance the cost, availability, and reliability of different energy sources, renewable and non-renewable, with energy demand in real time. That's a lot to take in, but one of the key components of their platform is the time series prediction machine learning model. So for more on that, I give you Hubert.
Thank you, Tom. Just a quick check. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, think you're good.
Okay, perfect. All right, so what our contribution to the BoosterPacks is, as Tom noted, time series prediction is a portion of our solution, and so we felt it might be neat to put together a pre-working example of this on DAIR as a BoosterPack, in the hopes that if you think this is useful for you or are just curious, you can have a working environment, produce a few samples, and then use it as a starting point to try out your own things from there. I don't know how you guys work, but for me, starting from a working example is helpful. So the samples that we put together is we put together two, one using a machine learning framework called Keras, and another one using TensorFlow. And what this sample does is, if I draw your attention to the screen on the right, time series prediction is all about understanding what's going to happen next in any data that's happening over time like this. And so the target output for a good time series predictor is on this chart. You'll see that time is on the x-axis and something we're predicting is on the y-axis. And in this case, because we are an energy vertical company, this is the load demands of a particular city, like the electrical loads needed throughout the course of a day. And you'll see two overlapping lines, and this is an example of what a good time series predictor looks like. Blue is what the actual series is that we're predicting, the actual series is, and orange is what the machine learning time series predictor is forecasting in advance. And when you see a high degree of overlap like this, this is the signs of a good predictor. So let me just scroll up here. So when would time series prediction be useful for you? So for us, we're an energy vertical company, and so for us, energy optimization is a big use case. So we do time series prediction for what are the electrical loads of cities, prediction for how much wind turbine power to expect, solar power to expect. But it could probably be applied to many other domains, like smart city domains, with traffic control or security detection, real-time transportation optimization, network security, infrastructure management, logistics things, and perhaps even medical applications. So this is where a time series could be useful. So we have an example here. So the example that I have follows a pretty generalized machine learning workflow, very similar to the last presentation, where there's not too much difference in terms of doing general machine learning workflows. Is one, you've got this gray box, that's a general data preparation step. So there's example code for this in our working example, where you go from your data source with raw data, and then you clean it, then you build features out of it, then you split up your data into a training set versus a test set. You develop your model, and then you deploy that, and at inference time, you make predictions. And so we've got two examples that walk through this as sample code where the raw data is embedded. So you can go from something that has to go through all of these steps. And I'll scroll down over here to what it will look like when you run it. So on the left, we designed this BoosterPack to require as little things for you to install as possible. So in the DAIR platform, you click the button for the BoosterPack, and then you're given a machine, and you simply open up the console screen in the DAIR platform, and you log in and you start typing. And this BoosterPack gives you instructions on where to change your directory to, which is where the code is. So in this example, this is the energy prediction code. This is checked out in the sample. And then you just run make all, and this will walk through all of the scripts involved in creating this model. I've already pre-run it here for you. And this screen on the left, this live console, is the same output as our image on the sample booster pack itself. So you can see every single step of the way. And it shows you what the execution looks like from when I first ran make all up here, walking through all of our Python files, what the Keras output looks like, how it goes through hyperparameter grid search, what combinations we picked for this sample, and then it gives you the output, which is a condensed text version of this visualized graph that I showed you that summarizes what the quality of the model you've just created is with the root mean square error. So in this example, this is a very good example where the square of the error, so the more you're off, the worse this number gets, is 236. And most machine learning models are contrasted to persistence, which is a naive predictor that for the most part says, I presume that the next value is going to be the same as what the value was before. And this is usually the baseline of what to beat. It sounds easy to beat, and the takeaway is it's not easy to beat. And that's kind of the domain of time series prediction. So this is one example, and we gave you another one too for a weather predictor that takes weather data from Environment Canada, just in case that's a useful example for you. Maybe you're doing something with weather. But the second solution, instead of using Keras, which is more of a higher level library, we provided an example where you can use TensorFlow natively to see how that's a little bit different than Keras. So that's all I have to present for you today. I hope you enjoy the booster pack that we made. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks so much, Hubert. That was extremely interesting, and I think going to also provide high value to our DAIR users. So let me just do a quick check and see if we have any questions. Question for Hubert: how does TensorFlow compare to other ML frameworks for time series?
I'm probably not the best person to ask for that. I've got a data science team that backs me on that. So that's something I might be able to get back to you with. Okay. But you Keras versus TensorFlow, though, that might be something I'm able to answer. So Keras is nice for, let's call it, taking a look a little bit further removed, so you don't have to be as detailed as using TensorFlow natively. Let's say it gives you a nicer abstraction from TensorFlow directly in Keras and TensorFlow.
Okay. And then the next question is, how much training data / time is required? Are there different ML frameworks available? I think you might have answered the second part, but how much training data time is required?
Sure. So there's lots of different ML frameworks available. I would say that's part of the the art of it. As for how much data and time is required, it really depends on the use case. The ones we have here for time series, you'll notice that I think it's about a year's worth of data, or at least 6 months for each of them. But one way to research the topic is, because this example gives you all the raw data, you can actually just delete chunks of data to experiment to see how the prediction, root mean square error changes to answer the question. In my example, the training time I think is something like 10 minutes for one and maybe 15 minutes for the other.
And that's leveraging the P100 GPUs, is it not?
That is leveraging the P100 GPUs. That was the other thing that I thought would be useful in our example, is that TensorFlow setup for GPU support is not so straightforward. So the DAIR platform gives a really nice package OS that has the CUDA drivers already included to make it easier to start.
Okay, great. I don't see any more questions. I think there's a previous question about expanding on the setup using Docker. I don't think we have enough time today to do a deep dive into that, but maybe that will be good content for an upcoming webinar topic. But what I recommend, if you want to know more about how we have leveraged Docker containers, looking at the option example BoosterPack would be a great starting point. Here's also another question. How were the available BoosterPacks chosen? By popular demand based on polling user base or based on what was available by select solicited vendors? Great question. So what we did was we did our own investigation or analysis about upcoming high demand technologies in the cloud, and based on our research on public clouds and what technologies are most in demand and being leveraged, and came up with a short list. We then sent out some questions to a wide number of vendors to see if they would be interested in participating as a BoosterPack builder, and eventually we drawed it down to the 4 that we selected, and we think we have a good broad scope of initial BoosterPacks for the catalog. We hope that the interest will be high and the access to them will be equally high, and the comments and feedback that you give us will be positive, and then what we will do is continue to build out the catalog, and the way we will do that is through you, the community, telling us what you would like to see added to the catalog, and you as subject matter experts in various areas of cloud technology proposing BoosterPacks to us so that we can make some decisions and choices that match with the needs of the user community. So that's how we'll be doing it going forward. So I want to kind of be mindful of time and wrap things up. I know some people are anxiously waiting for the draw, and we'll get to that momentarily, but just a closing thought. The best way to convince someone of the merit of a technology is to build something with it and then show them how it was done. That's a quote that I got from Peter Barsky. I think it applies to the DAIR program and what we're trying to showcase with the BoosterPacks. So we opened up the questions, kind of did them as things went. I don't know if there's any more questions you want to add. Okay, one just came in. Have you considered also adding cPanel and for one-click installs? That's a brilliant hosted solution. I thought we answered that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
I could answer the cPanel piece a little bit more clearly. We're not really focused on providing one-click solutions that take away the experience of understanding the underlying technology. That's why we don't offer a cPanel solution. Our goal is to help entrepreneurs understand how to use the cloud environments and how to deal with the complexity and challenges of using those environments, and giving them the tools to be able to use and handle the complexities effectively.
Okay, thanks, Don. Okay, so moving right along. So in terms of next steps, if you want to have a look at the BoosterPacks, as I mentioned, they are available on the public website today. So go and have a look and read through the documents. And I encourage you, if you want to take that next step and actually use the DAIR Cloud environment to develop, test your business application or service that you're targeting for the cloud, then you should go to the Canary DAIR landing page /cloud on our website and look for the purple apply button and fill out the application form. It should take only a couple more minutes to fill out that form and submit it. And within 2 to 3 business days, we're usually back to you with your access to the DAIR Cloud. And now for the door prizes. So I'll turn it over to Eric to announce the names of the winners that were drawn randomly. If you hear your name, open a private chat message with Eric Betmanis from Canary and confirm your email address so that the details of the prize can be sent to you.
So hi everyone, apologies if I mispronounce anyone's name, and I'll open up a chat panel, as Tom said, with you afterwards to confirm your email for this, but congratulations to Peter Solomus, Guylan Bork, Charlie G, Maylin Lee, and Christian Garcia. I'll chat with you guys just briefly.
Thanks a lot, Eric. One more question that was posted. Can we just get straight into AWS? I can't see the question now, you're blocking it. Can we just get straight into AWS, or do we need to use some of these booster packs? We've already built some code in AWS and are looking for support. So in the DAIR program, you will not get direct access to a private account in AWS. What we've done is Canary has purchased cloud from AWS Azure and also our private cloud that's hosting the GPUs, and you will use our account and be provisioned as a tenant within our account so that you can deploy applications or containers to AWS Azure or our private cloud for the GPU use case. Now, that said, there's nothing preventing you from continuing to leverage your personal account to host part of your development environment or solution and still take advantage of the free DAIR cloud access to the public clouds as well. So that's an option opened up for you. Okay. Yeah, and then it'd be nice to have other webinars. So in closing, look for news about our next DAIR webinar in an upcoming DAIR newsletter. If you haven't already subscribed to our newsletters, you can do that also on our DAIR landing page on our corporate website. So I encourage you to subscribe to the newsletters. We'll be posting upcoming webinars. The goal is to host a webinar quarterly, so every 3 months, and we'll have different topics. Send us your feedback on anything related to the DAIR Cloud Program. We'd certainly love to hear from you. If you have a suggestion for upcoming topics for webinars, that's a great way to do it as well. Just send us an email to dair@canary.ca for general type questions. So thank you everyone for taking the time to spend with us today. I hope you found it valuable and informative. So until next time, thank you and have a great day.